Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here at Trump Reads, and I was tagged to do this TBR book tag quite a while ago by Victoria at A Musical Bookworm. I'll leave her link down below. And this tag was created, I think, by a blogger named Rachel at the website A Perfection Called Books. So that's kind of interesting. I'll leave a link to that down below as well. And let's just get started with the 12 questions. All right. Number 1, how do you keep track of your TBR pile? Basically, I don't. I just kind of just look at my shelves and realize I haven't read most of them actually. I do have Goodreads, though all my books aren't on my Goodreads account, but I kind of use that a little bit. But mostly it's me just kind of knowing which books I've read and which ones I haven't, I guess. I don't really have like a TBR shelf or like a pile of TBR books that I want to go through because I change my mind so much. So that's basically that. Number 2, is your TBR mostly print or ebook? It's pretty much exclusively print now. In college, I did use a Kindle quite a bit just because you don't have that much space like in dorms and stuff. So I had I had like a little shelf of physical books, but also I used my Kindle. And that was more just because like it was the convenience factor of not having to actually have the books in the room and stuff. But now that I have my own place and the nice like little library room, pretty much just use physical books. Very rarely do I use a Kindle. Like so far this year, I've read one book on Kindle. That was like a Robert E. Howard pulp sci-fi novel, Almeric. Number 3, how do you determine which book from your TBR to read next? Well, basically I change my mind, like I said, like all the time. So what I usually do is like the month before for my like TBR videos, I kind of get like either I get some extra books, so I usually have like a dozen to like 15 or 16 books that I might like read through, and usually what happens is I read like a dozen books, but only about half are on that TBR pile. But what I generally like to do now is mix everything up, so I try to read some history, some life science books, and some fantasy books each month. Try to mix those together pretty well. And then history, I try to read a couple different categories, like maybe like some ancient history or like Greek history, and then some medieval history, and then like a general history book, something like that, I guess. Very rarely I do read a bunch of history books like all on the same-ish topic. Like for example, around the Olympics, I read 3 books on the ancient Greek Olympics earlier this year. So sometimes I do get on a whim where I do read a lot of the same stuff. But generally I just try to like mix up a bunch of different genres and like memoirs and philosophy every now and then as well, just to like read some different kind of stuff, I guess. Alright, number 4, a book that's been on your TBR for the longest. Well, I've had some of these books for so long, I don't really remember, but I guess I didn't really have TBRs back then. But just for example, like this book on the Celts I've had forever, and it's got like a really cool slipcase cover and a really cool spine and stuff, but I still haven't read it yet. Even though it looks sick, I don't know. It's just been like on my like to read list forever and ever and ever. And whenever I go to like read something about the Celts, I just read something else, and I'm not really sure why, because I don't really have too many on the Celts, to be honest. So I don't have a good reason for that. And then this like trilogy of books, Life in a Medieval City, Life in a Medieval Castle, and Life in a Medieval Village, I've had forever. Or I've at least had Life in a Medieval Village forever and ever and ever. And I read like the first chapter, and then I put it down, and that was like back in college. And then I like stopped reading it, because I was doing other stuff or something. But I really need to read them, and like I said, I've had at least that one forever. And these are by a couple, Joseph and Francis Guise, I believe. And they are like prominent medieval historians. But I just don't really have a good reason for that either, because I love we call it social history. I just haven't done it, and I'm not sure really why. I don't really have a good reason for that one either. But those have been on my TBR, I guess, when I've like wanted to read them for like quite a while. Number 5, a book recently added to TBR. So these are like my 3 like newest-ish books, I guess. An Oxford Very Short Introduction, which I have a nice little collection here going. This one's on Magna Carta. I just thought it was a kind of a cool little title, just on like a really specific, obviously document and medieval history. So that might be kind of cool. Then for a Roman history book, Empires and Barbarians, the Fall of Rome and the Birth of Europe. And the reason I have this one, I'm excited for, it's by Peter Heather, and he wrote a book on the Goths, like in the 90s. and I really love that series that it's a part of. And I've heard since then that Peter Heather is really good historian. So that's why I picked this book up recently on a good deal, and I hope it's as good as my friend recommended to me. So that's why I have that one. And a cool memoir that I saw the looks of that I kind of like the idea of is The Names of the Stars, a memoir, and it's subtitled A Life in the Wild by Pete Fromm. And this is basically sort of like a naturalist who used to had to walk in like either the Montana woods or Dakota woods or something, like every day, just basically for work or something, for like some sort of scientific work. He did that like when he was younger, and then he had to do it again like in his 40s or something. It's like kind of comparing like those two time periods in his life or something. So it just looks really cool, just because it's like basically like northern woods wilderness is kind of like where I live, even though I live in Maine. But it just looked really interesting, so that's why I picked that one up. And I'm really kind of starting to get into like scientific or science memoirs or history memoirs, where they just kind of put some memoir stuff in their work. So I'm really enjoying those, so that's why I'm excited for this one. All right. See, number 6. A book in your TBR because of its beautiful cover. I have so many of those, but just a couple. I really like the illustration of this one on the Reef by Ian McCallum. I was going to say McCallum, but McCallum. Just really love the illustrations there. And then also Spirals in Time, The Secret Life and Cursed Afterlife of Seashells, which I thought was kind of a nice, interesting little topic, by Helen Scales. And as you can see, that one's got like a really cool spiral illustration of basically like nautilus and shells and like sea slugs and stuff. So I find the life sciences have a pretty easy time because they have like such cool things in nature to do their illustrations on. But for a history one, another Photo Society. These Photo Society books are just like beautiful, like just in general. So I mean, you can't really go wrong with those. But this one on the Vikings by Gwyn Jones, I'm really excited because I haven't found like a magnum opus of Viking history yet. But I've heard really good things about Gwyn Jones, and I've been kind of saving it till I've like exhausted my other sources of like Viking history that I have. But as you see, the cover on the slipcase is pretty cool, or the illustration on the slipcase is pretty cool. The spine's really cool, even though they didn't have horned helmets. I know. But then you have on the actual book cover, you have Jormungandr in like a Viking ship and stuff. It's just really cool. I had to have that one. Plus, it's got like the red stained top pages. Just really cool. I'm excited for that one, for the content and because it's like super awesome. But yeah, these Photo Society ones just in general are awesome, like to look at. All right. Let's see, number what? 7, a book on your TBR that you never plan on reading. I have quite a few of those, to be honest. See, I have this one in my TBR, like on my shelves, basically. I have a couple Egyptian history books. I think this one was like recommended reading for one of my history classes in college or something. But I know it's going to be kind of a weird shock to some people. I really don't like Egyptian history, or like learning about ancient Egyptian history for some reason, until at least like the time period of like the Persians or Alexander, when it becomes like Hellenistic Egypt, basically under the Ptolemies. I just don't find them that interesting, and I think they're like super like overhyped and overrated or something. I don't know. So I just don't really like Egyptian history. So I know I'm pretty much never gonna read this one. I think, what do I keep? I just rearranged my bookshelves, and it used to be right here or right here. So that's why I keep looking right there. But they're down here actually now. But I have let's see, I already got rid of one, I believe, and I have one other Egyptian history book, but I'm probably not going to end up reading those. Another one, I kind of use them a little bit, but I have this set. Well, I don't have the whole set. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 13 volumes, and it's the Dictionary of the Middle Ages. They look really cool, and it's literally just a complete dictionary of like just tons of stuff from the medieval period and the Middle Ages. It is really cool, but I'm definitely not going to even come close to like reading through them, to be honest. It's just obviously because it's like a reference work. Also, up here, I don't know, you probably can't see them, but I have the entire Story of Civilization by Will Durant. I'm definitely not going to read through the whole thing. I kind of read bits and pieces of it sometimes just to get a feel for it, but it is a little antiquated now. But I feel like as a history lover, I need to have like the set. But I know I'm probably not going to read most of this, to be honest. This is like what, an 11 volume set, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, 11. Probably not going to read those. And then for something a little bit smaller, Um, Alexander Pope's translation of the Odyssey, I'm not going to read. He does a pretty good job, but it's too poetic and not literal enough for me. My favorite translator of basically most Greek works, but especially like the Iliad and the Odyssey, is Richmond Lattimore. I just think he's superb. I've read most. I think I've read. I'm not sure if I've read the entirety of Pope's Iliad, but that's definitely enough for me. He does do a good job. It's just I know I'm not gonna read the Odyssey for like the third or fourth time in this translation. So that's that. All right, number 8, an unpublished book on your TBR that you're excited for. All right. Yes, you can see these. There's the Landmark Herodotus and the Landmark Thucydides. There's also the Landmark Caesar, which came out I think in January 2018. There's also the Landmark Arrian and the Landmark Xenophon. There's one in the works, the Landmark Polybius, and Polybius was basically a Greco-Roman or Greek historian, but he was kind of like a hostage for the Romans, and he wrote basically a history during, like I said, during the Roman times, and he's like one of my favorite classical historians. And I used to write a bunch of history. I used to write a bunch of history articles on the First Punic War, and he's like the main source for that. And like I said, he's like my favorite classical historian. And these landmark things basically have tons of maps, tons of footnotes, tons of just extra resources and appendices and all kinds of good stuff. Just commentary all over the place. Just makes reading it super like enlightening, and you always know what's going on, and it clears everything up, anything that's like obscured, and gives you like important information to help you understand everything better. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to whenever the Landmark Polybius comes out. There's no actual set date, it just says it's in the works. So basically who knows when that's going to be, but that's one I'm super excited for. All right, number 9, a book on your TBR that basically everyone has read but you. I'm going to handle number 9 and 10 basically together. So that number 9 is a book on your TBR that basically everyone's read except you, and number 10 is a book on your TBR everyone recommends to you. And it's kind of going to be the same thing, because I have kind of the same answers for both of them, and they're basically a bunch of Brandon Sanderson works, as well as Patrick Rothfuss's Name of the Wind. Pretty much everyone recommends Sanderson and Rothfuss to me whenever I ask for fantasy recommendations, like all the time. That's just like what they recommend. And I just feel like every single person has read either Mistborn or The Way of Kings and stuff, or the Stormlight Archive. I've read the first one. I haven't got to Words of Radiance yet, but I just wasn't like a big fan of it. But I still get recommended to it all the time. But like Mistborn especially, I feel like everyone and their mother has read Mistborn and recommends it to me and talks about it and stuff. And I'm just like, I really don't want to try it. And same thing for Name of the Wind. Everyone really loves Kaboth or whatever, and like Patrick Rothfuss and stuff. And I'm just like, I haven't tried the King Killer Chronicles either, but basically those are my answers for those ones. All right, number 11, a book on your TBR that you're dying to read. All right, so one that I actually have right here is The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs: A New History of a Lost World by Steve Brissett. Basically, this is like a science memoir, I believe, from an archaeologist's perspective. And I've been really craving a book on the dinosaurs, and I haven't read one all year for whatever reason, but this one was recommended by National Geographic's Book Tag. I've heard really good things about it. Pretty much every venue I go online, it has really good ratings and reviews, so super excited for this one. And then one fantasy book that I don't actually have in my possession yet, it's been out for a little while, is Scott Lynch's Republic of Thieves. Just really enjoy The Gentleman Bastards. Like, it's just really great fantasy. I love the friendship between Jean and Locke, and that's the fantasy book that I'm most excited to read, but I don't have it yet, so I gotta get hold of that one. Alright, and number 12, how many books are on your TBR shelf? On Goodreads, like I said, I don't have my whole library on Goodreads yet, so according to Goodreads, it's like 300 something, something like that, but it's definitely a lot more, considering there's gotta be a few hundred more. I don't know, well, maybe not, I don't know. There's quite a few more I haven't added on here, plus there's gonna be tons more that I just have kind of like on Excel spreadsheets, like on my computer, from World War I histories to regular histories, and then science books and fantasy books and stuff. So a lot. I'm just gonna say lots and lots and lots. All right. So like I was saying, this was a really fun tag. I had a really good time doing it. Really good questions. Can't wait to see you guys. If you guys have already done this tag, leave a link down below so I can go check it out. Also, if you want to do it, just leave a link down below. Tell me you're gonna, or a comment down below saying you're gonna do it too. But specifically, I'm gonna tag Kara at A Wild Book Garden, Carrie at Carrie Louise Reads, and who else did I write down? Why can't I find you? Julie at The Hungry Bookworm. Alright, so you guys are officially tagged if you haven't already done it, and like I said, just leave some comments down below about what you thought about some of my books or some stuff I should add to my TBR if I didn't already mention it. Just tell me like what you guys are excited to read next. And always remember, read victoriously.